Why does he need a firearm? He's obviously shown that he has no problem pulling it out on someone for something as little as a misunderstanding in an intersection.
Each year in Washington, thousands of people try to buy a gun even though a court order says they can't. They get caught and stopped by a background check. Good evening, I'm Amanda Grace.
And I am David Espinosa Hall. Now, for these felons, even trying to buy a gun means they're breaking both state and federal law. But the King 5 investigators reveal this is one gun crime the justice system won't let them get away with.
It's lights and sirens as Auburn police respond to a reported road rage. Officers catch up with a red Ford Escort. The man inside pointed a gun at another car.
Get your hands up! Get your hands up!
Officers arrest Jerry Beimer of Auburn for second-degree assault. In his car, they find this Beretta 9mm.
Guy freaks out, stops in the middle of the intersection.
Thomas Hill was on the other end of that gun barrel. An argument over who had right-of-way at this intersection seemed like a routine disagreement until the man in the other car reached for something.
Holds it up for half a second just to show, hey, it's a gun, before he points it at us.
Beimer pled to a reduced misdemeanor charge in 2014. The checked box on his sentence form told him he was ineligible to possess firearms. But Beimer tried to buy a gun from a firearms dealer on January 5th of this year, according to records we received from the King County Sheriff's Office. He failed the background check because of his conviction and walked away empty-handed.
Why does he need a firearm? He's obviously shown that he has no problem pulling it out on someone for something as little as a misunderstanding in an intersection.
In Washington this year, there were more than 3,200 attempts to purchase firearms by people like Beimer who failed background checks, according to data we received from the FBI.
The system is actually very, very good.
Those are people who come into stores like Private Sector Arms in Olympia.
The person's ID and all that.
They fill out this form, swearing that they're eligible to purchase a firearm.
You're attesting that all the information you provided on the front is true.
Lying about that is a state and federal crime.
What type of a firearm it is.
So owner Don Teague is always surprised when someone fails the background check and just walks away from his counter. No questions or follow-up from the local police who conducted the background check in the first place.
Prosecute some of those guys. You put a couple of those guys on the news for trying to purchase weapons and going to jail, that'll put an end to that pretty quick.
And I'm not going to beat around the bush. We're not doing anything with them.
King County Sheriff John Urquhart openly admits that his office does not pursue those would-be gun buyers.
We just don't have the resources to do that.
The Sheriff's Office has files dating back to 2005 on hundreds of individuals who were denied gun purchases. Few, if any, have ever risen to the next level, charges for attempted possession of a firearm. An example is Shane Grow, whose file we received through a public record request. The Maple Valley man tried to buy a gun in February in spite of this sexual assault protection order that prohibits him from obtaining, owning, possessing, or controlling a firearm. Gross signed the document in court in 2012, but told us he thought he was now legally allowed to buy a gun. Other King County records show attempted purchases by fugitives, felons, involuntarily committed mentally ill, and most commonly, domestic violence cases and protection orders.
What I would say is the system worked. He was prevented from buying that gun, regardless of what his motive was.
The sheriff says, after years of budget cuts to vital services, he doesn't have the manpower to pursue these cases. And he says most hardcore criminals aren't shopping the local gun store.
If he really wanted to do harm to that woman with that gun, he can go out and buy one on the street like that.
We tracked down and talked to 5 women from the King County case files. All were victims of domestic abuse or with protection orders against ex-boyfriends or husbands. 4 of the 5 said they were alarmed to hear their abusers were out seeking guns, and they were all too frightened to talk to us on TV. What do you think about these kind of people out there trying to buy guns?
It's troubling, right? It's deeply concerning. These are individuals who are not allowed to have a gun for a serious reason.
Attorney General Bob Ferguson issued this report last month, claiming that police agencies across Washington rarely follow up on denied gun purchases. Potential buyers have no fear of consequences.
You have the best system, fill out a form, gets rejected, that's great. But it can't just be a lie and try system. I then go to the next dealer and the one after that until somehow something falls through the cracks and I get that firearm I'm not legally entitled to have.
The AG report makes several recommendations on how to improve Washington's fractured background check system, including following up on firearms denials.
This is why we have the processes that we do to stop people from getting guns, is to stop bigger issues from happening.
We could not reach Jerry Beimer, the man who pulled the gun on that victim. Prosecutors would have to prove that he knew he was not allowed to buy a firearm, and that is not always a slam dunk. In Beimer's case, and the other one we mentioned in that story involving Shane Grow, there's some confusing court paperwork in their files about just what the judge intended, and those men may have truly believed that they were allowed to buy a gun. The point here is that nobody's really questioning these thousands of people who attempt to buy these guns to get to the bottom of it all.
Is this happening nationwide, or is this just a Washington problem?
Well, it seems to be happening nationwide. It appears that there's only 3 states that really do something about it: Virginia, Pennsylvania, and our neighbors to the south. In Oregon, the state police run all background checks in a centralized system, and when they first started doing this in 2014, they referred nearly 500 cases for prosecution. Wow. So they found a lot of people that they thought were breaking the law.
Fascinating. Chris, thank you so much.
Yes.
Guys at home, if you have a story you'd like the King 5 investigators to check out for you, please give us a call at the number on your screen.